It's time for KP's Video News. KP Video News, y'all. KP Video News, y'all. Right.
KP Video News, y'all. And I'm gonna come to you today, man. I got a couple of some serious stories that I need to talk about, and it's a crazy stat that I just ran into today, and I had no idea that it was as bad as it is, and what it has to do with is black women, in the United States. There's some bad things happening to black women in the United States. And I have to call on all men to just stand up, man. Stand up and start protecting these sisters, man, because hey, sisters, you need us and we need you. At this particular point, in this juncture, we need each other more and more. Every day we need each other, and it's time for us to settle our differences and try to work together as a team, because without us there to protect you, well, let me tell you the story, and then you make that decision yourself. At least 4 black women and girls are murdered every day in the United States. And this is what happened in 2020, according to statistics released by the FBI last week, a sharp increase compared to the year before. And the FBI recorded at least 405 murders of black women and girls last year as homicides surged across the country. And experts caution that even that stark number probably represents an undercount. So the families of victims and local activists and the release of data is just the latest reminder that violence against black women and girls often goes ignored and should be made more urgent public priority. And what's sad is that a lot of cases aren't taken too seriously. It's just another black girl, said Jennifer Redmond, whose 19-year-old daughter, Soraya, was killed last September. And Soraya J. was sitting in a Sacramento, California apartment with friends when someone started shooting through the windows and walls, and she tried to dodge bullets and was hit. And later she died in the hospital. But since her death, Soraya's parents and siblings have fought to keep focus on her loss. They have held marches and passed out flyers and have urged police to keep investigating the case. For them to get recognized, the parents have to go out there, make the noise so that people know, hey, this is what's going on. Pay attention. So this is serious, man. This is a serious thing. So I'm saying, hey, sisters, we need you and you need us. So all that stuff, well, I don't need a man, blah blah blah. Get over it. It's time for us to work as a team again and try to protect and love each other, respect each other, and bring it to the forefront. And that's how you grow as a society, as a team. Not like, I'm over here, I don't need you, I can do what you can do. Forget all that madness, because it's time for a rude awakening for everybody at this point, and that's exactly where we at. We're getting a rude awakening in here, and things are not looking so well. You got people dropping all over the country, everywhere, men, women alike. Young teenage guys from the ages of 14 all the way to 21, they're dropping at a phenomenal rate. And this is, I'm focusing on the women right now, but the increase in murder of black women comes as the overall U.S. murder rate rose 30% during the pandemic, the biggest jump in 6 decades. The number of people murdered increased sharply across racial groups, and cities big and small most American homicide victims remain men, and black men and boys continue to face the highest overall risk of homicide, with at least 2,400 additional black men and boys killed in 2020 compared to with 2019. So that's up 2,400 additional black men compared to 2019. And the rising murder rate has affected black women across the country. Baltimore, Maryland recorded its highest ever number of women killed in 2020, with at least 48 women murdered throughout the year, many of them black. It's not yet clear how much of the increased killings of black women last year was related to domestic violence and how much might be caused by rising community violence or other factors, according to the criminologist at this University of Missouri, St. Louis, who studies murder trends. But advocates and experts say the stark rise makes it clear it's time to address the factors that have long made black women face a 3 times higher homicide rate than white women, as well as why their risk of being murdered increased sharply last year. There has never been a moment in our society where there's more been a reckoning with the particular kinds of violence that's meted out against black women, and but there are many factors that make black women more vulnerable to violence, including widespread access to firearms, the barriers to access of preventive services, and mental health care, factors that probably worsened during the pandemic, and the intensely unequal way that coronavirus affected Americans of color almost certainly played a role in worsening violence against women. Many black women are essential workers who had to continue working outside their homes during the pandemic. So it's like, some ladies feel like, they feel like nobody cares about them. They feel like they're invisible. And that's not true. It's not true, ladies. We got your back, but you can't slam the door in our faces, kick us out, throw us out, and disown us and expect for things to go your way. We have to work as a team. It has to be a team effort. Men, you need to step up and be men. Women, it's time. It's just time, man. It's just time, because this is something that just really shocked me, man, to find out that many black women have died. And I know a lot of black women and girls have been coming up missing. They have been kidnapped and missing. You need us. You need us, if not for anything else, for protection. So we're throwing our hand out to you, letting you know we want to protect you. But if you slam the door in our face and say you don't need us, then we can't protect you. Okay, now here we go. It's a pretty a good story here. You have a guy that was convicted. Here's the story. The guy that was convicted of killing 5 children, but he was proven innocent and he is now free. He is now free. A Detroit man was sentenced to life in prison of a fire that killed 5 children. 15 years later, he was found innocent by prosecutors and is now free. The former judge and current Oakland County prosecutor, Karen McDonald, dropped a second-degree murder charge against Jawan Deering, which is actually 50 years old now, 1 week after requesting the defendant's life sentence conviction be vacated. It's been a hard uphill battle, and the sun couldn't shine on a brighter day. This is the brightest for me. Told her it took a lot of strength to step up against the status quo, and that's what Deering said, thanking McDonald as he left the courthouse in jubilation. In 2000, Deering was accused of setting fire to a Detroit suburb to kill 5 children. And though Deering claimed he was innocent, authorities at the time believed the fire was set intentionally by the defendant with a motive of revenge due to an unpaid drug debt. Over the years, the University of Michigan Law School Innocence Clinic took up the defendant's case and tried to seek a new trial They argued the evidence and the scientific analysis that led to the defendant's conviction had been based on junk science. Unfortunately, their motion was denied by Michigan's appellate court. Upon McDonald's appointment as the county's new prosecutor in 2020, the Innocence Clinic made the final appeal for her and to give the case a fresh look. The move uncovered several misconducts by the police and the prosecutors who initially handled the case. McDonald's discovery and also discovered a survivor of the fire was shown a couple of suspects in the lineup in the immediate aftermath, and the witness told investigators that Deering was not responsible for the fire. At the time, the information was never shared with the defendant's lawyer or the jury during his trial in 2006. In addition, the jury was never informed that jail informants had received significant benefits from the prosecutor to testify against Deering. McDonald said a dozen law enforcement professionals who reviewed the case recently unanimously found no credible or sufficient evidence to connect the defendant to the start of the fire. Furthermore, they believe the fire might have been started accidentally. Other prosecutorial misconducts in the case involved former county prosecutor David Garcia denying 3 arrest warrants for other suspects thought to have committed the heinous crime. However, he claimed he was unaware of such warrant denials until he spoke to McDonald a couple of weeks before his release. The families of 5 children who died in the fire have suffered pain that most of us could never imagine. Those 5 children died horrifically, and their families deserve certainty and peace. At a time, it's a time to heal. Instead, they have suffered the repeated opening of their wounds. And that's what one of those, today, there's nothing you or I can do to mitigate their pain, but at least we can acknowledge it. We owe it to the families of these children to hold ourselves to the highest standards and to hold ourselves accountable, stated McDonald. Under Detroit law, Deering could be eligible for a $700,000 compensation from the state due to a payout of $50,000 each year an individual was incarcerated or wrongly convicted. Yeah, telling you, man, this stuff happens all the time. It happens all the time. I think I'm gonna do this one more. Let's see. I think I'm gonna do this one more case here. I think I'm gonna do this Tesla case. Tesla was ordered to pay $137 million to a black man who said he was subjected to racist abuse while working as an elevator for Tesla. And Owen Diaz worked at Tesla's Fremont, California factory as an elevator operator in 2015. They said colleagues told him to go back to Africa, and that he had suffered sleepless nights. San Francisco federal court on Monday ruled that Tesla must pay $137 million, and said, to the person that said he endured the racism. And Diaz told the court that he suffered sleepless nights and weight loss after his loss of appetite, which was first reported. The decision, some days I would just sit on my stairs and cry, he told the jury. The jury awarded him $130 million in punitive damages, $6.9 million for emotional stress, the report stated. And a clinical law professor at Berkeley stated that he believed it was the largest verdict in an individual race discrimination and employment case. In reaction to the verdict on Monday, Tesla versus the People, Valerie Capers-Workman published a blog post arguing that the facts of the case didn't justify the verdict. For example, she said Diaz encouraged his son and daughter to work at Tesla with him, and Tracy and Kennedy Diaz's account simply doesn't make sense. So, Diaz's attorney stated that Diaz was only able to bring his lawsuit publicly because he hadn't signed a mandatory arbitration agreement. Arbitration agreements force employees to bring complaints privately outside of court. And Diaz stated that he was considering using some of the money he was awarded to start his own business and then hire former prisoners and people experiencing homelessness. Tesla did not immediately respond when contacted about the verdict, and Diaz is not the only black worker to file a racial harassment suit against Tesla. Tesla was ordered to pay $1 million to a black former employee named Melvin Berry in August, and Berry started working at Tesla in 2015, but said he resigned a year later. Berry said supervisors called him the N-word and that he saw racist graffiti in the workplace. In July, Protocol obtained sworn testimonies from black workers at Tesla describing experiences of alleged racial harassment and abuse, and the testimonies were filed in March as a part of the lawsuit. It was filed in 2017. So that's a $137 million paid out to a black man who said he was experienced racism from Tesla, alleged racism from Tesla. And oh well, hey, you got to pay. You want to play, you got to pay. All right, folks, it's KP's Video News, and I had another story, but I'm gonna do this one next time. It's a black driver in the Stand Your Ground case down in Georgia, and it's really a trip, man. Well, it's not really that long. Let me go ahead and read it. So, watching a pretrial immunity hearing for William Wilson put into perspective the real crisis of Georgia's legal system. Wilson, who was black and was with a white woman during the incident that led to the death of Haley Hutchinson, has been sitting in pretrial detention for over 400 days. Initially denied bond, Wilson's legal counsel filed a motion to reconsider bond in December 2020, and yet the judge still had taken no action on a motion nearly a year later. Let that sink in for a moment. In a system that claims people are innocent until proven guilty, a young man sits in jail without so much as clear ruling on bond because the judge refused to issue a decision. Maintaining his innocence, Wilson insists that he was in fear for his life after a truck full of drunk white teenagers tried to run his car off the road while screaming N-word lover at him and his girlfriend. The group also threw empty beer bottles at Wilson's car. Not one received even a citation for driving under the influence. There were no repercussions for driving around with open beer bottles in the truck or purchasing alcohol while underage, all of which they were admitted to the law enforcement that night. But as the immunity hearing approached a close on the second day of testimony, became horrified as the basic constitutional protections seemed to disappear right before our eyes. Protections like the right to legal counsel, due process, the judicial impartiality appeared in question. Wilson's defense counsel discovered that Judge Muldrew, District Attorney Daphne Totten, had improper communication during the trial. So that's the district attorney and the judge are talking. Instead of using the proper procedure to acknowledge the mishap, they attempted to cover it up without notifying the defense, giving an appearance of judicial impropriety. The district attorney submitted evidence to the judge, never shared with Wilson's defense, and when it was brought to the court's attention by the defense team, Muldrew held Wilson's lead defense counsel, Johnson, in contempt of court. Johnson, a noted civil rights advocate and attorney in the state, was detained for over 6 hours. His counsel was also threatened with contempt for refusing to allow the bailiffs to manhandle Johnson. If a judge can do this to an officer of the court, imagine what happens to defendants. This is the current state of Georgia and its country's legal system. Judges and prosecutors act without professional integrity because they do not expect serious accountability. This is also the result of a failed legal system that seeks to punish people who are either unable to pay the bond or simply a victim's legal crisis. Though we call on specific actors such as Judge Michael Muldrew to be held accountable when they infringe on the rights of others, a perverted sense of power and privilege. There are also many others that go unnamed and unchecked. There's a deteriorating elements of our legal system, particularly in Georgia's rural and coastal South, that are threatening the very sustainability of any pursuit of justice within our entire state. Daphne Trident also illustrates the crisis. As district attorney, she failed in securing an indictment in the murder of Julian Lewis. A Georgia State Patrol and Georgia Bureau of Investigation both agreed that Lewis's death was murder. Trident still refused to release the video and audio of Lewis's murder by Trooper Jake Thompson. Former DA Jackie Johnson is another example. While indicted for a minor offense related to her failure to prosecute the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery, she still has not been held responsible for dozens of cases in which she was grossly negligent in the execution of her duties as a prosecutor. Georgia's legal crisis extends even to its jails and prisons, as incarcerated people are continuously subjected to inhumane and often deadly conditions. State legislative hearings and the Department of Justice led statewide civil rights investigations into Georgia's prisons, many of which are in the South rural Georgia communities. These are just a few of tens of thousands of cases in which justice is never served in Georgia, and every aspect of the crisis, lives and communities are being destroyed. The failures of legal institutions persist through a lack of accountability, transparency, and clear impartiality. It's ultimately up to us to abolish these symptoms and reimagine a new way and abolish these systems. Young people like Wilson get dragged through the system with procedure delays and a broad realm of judicial and prosecutorial discretion standing in the way of just action. Reasonable fear of blackness is accepted, but black people's genuine fear of severe bodily injury or death is often disregarded. So this Georgia is a state that has a stand your ground law, just like Florida has a state that has a stand your ground law that and that's how Trayvon Martin got killed by, and the guy claimed that stand your ground, he felt like he was threatened. Now here you have a black man that was actually threatened, him and his girlfriend both, and he defended himself under the stand your ground law. However, the judge and the district attorney are not allowing him to bail out and not allowing him to use the stand your ground law in this case. So his constitutional rights are being denied, and this is something that they probably would have to take up in federal court, because I don't see these crooked, this stuff is going backwards, man. This is the kind of law that you used to have back in the 30s and the 40s for black people in the South, and now they are reverting back to that. They're reverting back to those practices. Well, I don't live in the South, so maybe they never stopped. Maybe they never stopped those practices. Maybe they've been doing this stuff all the time, but we just haven't seen it because we live in other locations and we don't live in the South. So it's a sad day, man. It's a real sad day that when you get charged for murder, when you should have been, the case should have never even went to trial due to the stand your ground rules in a state that has stand your ground laws. So it's like white people can use it, but black people can't. All right, folks, it's KP's Video News.
And you know what time it is?
You know what time it is.
Time for KP's Video News.
Peace. Peace, y'all.
KP's
What time it
Video
is.
News, y'all.